here to introduce an amazing woman. I had my phone that had a beautiful bio on it because she is highly accomplished. Dr. Kiana Dancie is here tonight to be our moderator with our author. She is an accomplished author all on her own. She is also you'll see her out doing comedy, doing events like this. She loves community. She is a person with a warm spirit and a beautiful heart. And I just want her to come now and find a seat. See how she do, y'all.
I didn't hear my name. Hey, y'all. Hello. Good to see you. Thank you. Good to see you. Hey, y'all. Okay, so I was waiting on her to say, introducing Dr. Kiana Dancie. I love to hear my name. Y'all hear me? So let me say that. Introducing the Dr. Kiana Dancie. Yes. So one thing that she did not mention to you is I used to host a show called Sister Circle Live on TV One. Many people recognize me from there. I've done stand-up comedy all over the world. Dave Chappelle, Martin Lawrence, Kevin Hart, what's the little man name? Cat Williams, all the people. Child, I just know he's little, you know what I mean? Bless his heart. Anyway, and I just did my TEDx, my TED Talk last year in Botswana, Africa. Last year was amazing for me. I went to Africa 5 times. So I'm so excited to be home. And anybody, okay, let me see. Just make sure. Okay, we all people of color. Go home. Yeah. Go home. I'm telling you, it was life-changing. Oh, it was life-changing. If you've never, and it's not that expensive. Your most expensive thing you're going to spend your money on is your airline ticket. Okay, girl? You can get your hair done. You can get a massage. You can eat for $1. You hear me? South Africa, $1 is 20 of theirs. You hear me? It go a long way. And don't mess around and go to Nigeria, okay? Woo, you rich with $5. Really, with $1. So anyway, we are here for a reason, and I'm super excited you guys are all here. Give it up for yourselves, because you could have been anywhere. Do better than that, because I know this is not a low self-esteem room. Do better than that. Give it up for yourself. I love a crowd that loves to read. I love a crowd that loves to celebrate us. And we are in the process, right now we're in the phase of the world and the time and the administration where we need to support and celebrate each other. So we have this young lady. Listen, I was like, okay, ma'am. I was reading her bio. I was going down. So, okay. So who already have her book? Okay. So it's about 50-50. It's not new to the author. Who's going to buy her book tonight? That's cute. That's what I'm saying. Everybody, girl. We got to put the pressure on them. You got to put people on the spot. Spend some money. Okay. All right. So what I want to do is I want to introduce this lady and bring her to the stage. Well, bring her to this little concrete. And I'm petty, but I'm pretty. Listen. Listen. If you want to be petty, you need to be pretty. You know, because we've all seen some people. They be real petty and ugly. You cannot have both of them struggles. You're gonna have to make a decision which one you're gonna be. Okay, let me get the author up here, because we're gonna have a good time. Why is this turn this way? Okay, here you go, baby. You gonna sit right here. All right, y'all seen me coming in here? I was a mess. I was getting dressed in the car, gluing my nails on. It was a whole lot going on. Anyway, I'm so excited to be here. First of all, put your hands together. You already clapping. Come on. Put your hands together for author Denny Bryce. Yes! So the setup was a little different last time. I was a little low. This time they got me high, and I got this little...
Well, I had to put mine down.
Baby, I got this little dress on. Hold on. Let me sit down from this way. Because I am a lady. You hear me? I'm coming. Boom. You better give me a prayer cloth, baby. Come on. It's always a lady in the room. She said, baby, I will cover your legs. You hear me? Hallelujah. Because if you don't know me, I'm saved, but I'm savage. Amen? I know a good woman with a prayer cloth. I knew it. I saw that leather dress. We knew she was going to have a prayer cloth. Come on now. Don't let her just shut her down. Okay, anyway, look. I'm excited. So when I was in the back, I said, listen, they gave me all these questions. There you go. Thank you, baby. I said, I'm going to ask you some questions. And she said, I could talk about me. I said, you're going to make my job easy. So I just learned a little bit about you.
Yes.
And so, first of all, hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
You look amazing.
You too.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for
So I just realized that she is from a lot of places. I said, where are you from? Now, what'd you tell me? What was your answer?
I started with Chicago, then I went to New York, then I ended up in D.C.
And I said, well, ma'am, where were you born? And she said, I said, where are you born?
I said, Ohio.
What part?
Cleveland.
And me too. Give it up for the people. I said, baby, you got out, honey. Anybody here from Cleveland, Ohio? Child. She said, I don't go home. I don't go home.
I don't go.
I don't go home either until somebody dead or in a dress. They get married or buried, you know.
And then you can see them online.
Exactly. So you were born in the Ohio area.
Absolutely.
And you traveled all over the world. Real quickly, give us a little bit about your upbringing and how did you move around so much and why?
Well, part of the reason, when I graduated out of college, I was a theater and dance major, and I ended up being a professional dancer in New York and Chicago for a few years. I danced, my joyful moment was to be on the same stage as the late Judith Jamison.
Wow.
She was performing Cry. I was performing something called Forbid. It's been a few years, believe me. And my knees know. So I went through that part of my life, and then I ended up in Chicago because of my I think I blame my voice. I loved the sound of my voice, and so did others. So I ended up doing something called being a media tour coordinator.
Nice.
What I had to do was get online, or there was no online in those days, get on the phone and call all of the AM morning shows and book spokespeople.
Wow.
This is back in the day when one of the people I used to hang with, and I'm not her best friend, and I missed the opportunity, was Oprah.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
You missed the boat on that one, sis.
I didn't know.
You a girl with, I know. That's why you gotta treat everybody the same. Ask them in advance, are you gonna be somebody? Let me know now.
I'm serious. If I'd known, I'd be that girl.
Absolutely.
I'd be that girl. But that was just part of what you did. You talked to everybody on the phone. So I also ended up eventually being a spokesperson on camera for a company called Sara Lee Corporation. The cake people. And my job was to get on TV and say, oh, we just closed another bakery.
Hilarious. Okay.
So then I started my own PR firm.
Okay.
And did that for a number of years.
How did you get to write books, ma'am?
I started writing originally fan fiction.
Ooh.
And the fandom that I wrote was called Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Wow. Y'all didn't know we had a superstar. Half of us ain't even read the book, but we know the title. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's a TV series.
Yes, ma'am.
And I wrote something called Spike and Buffy.
Nice.
Was, the duo that I wrote. So they were the sexiest group. And I traveled a lot. In my PR and marketing days, I traveled throughout the U.S. Because I was doing national events, 5,000 to 10,000 people in attendance, and doing all that stuff. So I've been to every city in USA.
I love it.
A few in Europe. And other countries.
You see how she did a few in Europe? Listen.
I threw it in there.
So when you said you used to be a dancer, and you said dancer in Chicago, dancer in New York, I was okay. I was hoping, please don't say dancer in Atlanta, because that's different. You're a dancer in Atlanta. We don't know which one. Magic City, girl. Okay, anyway. Buffy the Vampire. We don't know which one. We won't know where you gonna come from. Okay.
Yeah. I gotta be careful because I almost said something I didn't want to say.
It's all right. We grown, girl. We grown.
Safe space.
Safe place and space, yes ma'am. Okay, so I am excited to get you to tell, because we were having short dialogue in the back about this book. And now, if you guys, as I told, 50% of the people in the room already have the book, and the other 50% has not been exposed. So you're going to get hip to it very soon. But real quickly, I don't want to read the summary. I want you, as I told you, because I want to give you the opportunity to speak, give us in 2 to 3, we're going to give her 5 sentences, honey, about the trial of Mrs. Rhinelander.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, the book is based on real events that happened in 1920s New York City, predominantly New Rochelle, and a young, very wealthy young man started hanging out with a domestic, and they had a 3-year affair. His daddy wasn't pleased, but eventually they got married. And 2 weeks after they married, he filed for an annulment. And it was based on the fact that she never mentioned she was Negro.
Child. You mean to tell me he didn't see that curl in her hair and that curve in her back? He was confused. He was like, this now, you know when he was touching that woman, he had to know, this ain't all white.
That is exactly the case. That eventually, that was the perspective of their lawyers, but initially, let me give you a little background on Alice Jones Rhinelander. Alice and her family were from Britain. They were immigrants. Her mother was white. Her father was Jamaican, a mulatto, terminology that was popular during that time period. But in Britain, different from the USA, they didn't have something called the one-drop rule. So when they got here, I looked up their census information for the first 10 years of their existence. Their mother, the whole family was white. So she did not, she said, no, I'm not Negro. That was her first line of defense until she started losing.
Okay, so back in that day.
Back in that day.
I think I would have said I was not Negro too if I could pass, you know what I mean? There are certain benefits that comes with that. And from what I'm reading and what I have read about your book, the father never wanted to be identified as Negro. He was okay with the term colored, but not Negroes. Would you like to express more about that? Expose them. Tell them, girl, give us the tea.
Well, it was, again, going back to the British mindset and the Jamaican mulatto mindset. Being colored, there were categories of color. And you could be mulatto, you could be mixed race, you could be light skin, dark skin. The darker you were, the worse your plot in life was in Jamaica. So he was a light-skinned Jamaican, married a white woman. In Britain, nobody raised an eyebrow about this coupling. When they moved to the US of A, nobody raised an eyebrow either, and he got good jobs. He ran a taxi business. He bought a building. The family went to an all-white church. So,
that's juicy. I want to know how big this scandal was. Like, is this just a little news column? You know, was it like radio? Black folks taking over. Like, what? What was it? Was this TMZ? Like, what? Tell me how large of a...
New York Times, New York Daily News, the New Rochelle Standard, all of these papers carried this, including the New Amsterdam News, front page. But TMZ had a lot in common with newspapers back in the day, because yellow journalism was a part of the way the news was distributed. Back during this time, some of you may be familiar with the Leopold and Loeb case out of Chicago. 2 young men, wealthy, murdered a kid just to see if they could do it. And then there's the Stokes monkey trial. Along with those 2 big headline stories that went nationwide, so did the Rhinelander story. The Rhinelander family was right up there with the Astors, with the Rockefellers, with the Kennedys. And they ran in that circle, and they were part of something called the register.
Social register.
Thank you.
Social register.
You know who bought the social register? Fords.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah.
So this was more, although it was about race and color, but it was also more about class.
Yes. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, because you had this wealthy young man who he stuttered. They met in the school because Daddy sent him away because he wasn't as proficient as the rest of the clan, so to speak. And so that's where they met initially. And then they had a beautiful love affair. In fact, a quote from her in the newspaper was when a reporter asked her, what do you think about your relationship? And she said, it's a beautiful love affair. And her exact words. That was my original title for the book, but my editor said, no.
Yeah.
We just didn't go that way with it.
So, you know, I mentioned to you that I was going to try to stay off book, but some of these questions on this paper are kind of good, so let me go. In many ways, the book vividly portrays the impact of Alice and Kip's affair and marriage on Alice's inner circle, her mom, her sister, her father, niece. You know, we know this. We're the married people. We're the people who are married. Yeah, okay. I'm trying. I'm trying real hard, but it's looking like it's gonna be me and my dogs, okay? You know, the statement is always be careful who you marry because you also marry the family. So how impacted was the family, and did they get drug in the mud too?
Absolutely, and it's an interesting family situation because 3 sisters. Alice was the middle sister, the oldest sister, and this is all stuff documented, and also the transcript from this trial. I didn't read all of it because I was, my eyes were falling on my head. There was a lot of information about this because there was so much attention to it. So this couple, this relationship, just kept building fire, if you will, for the news media.
So the son actually filed for the annulment, but I'm sure that came from pressure from the family. But
Absolutely.
Were they still in love, and did he still want to be there?
Now, I write historical fiction, and one of the things that was not in the transcripts, a lot of their love letters back to each other was in the transcript. I made a decision that they didn't want that, he didn't want the annulment, but he had no choice. He even says to her publicly, in an instance like, I hope you win. And she starts out by denying that she was Negro until there's a point in the trial, and you're going to read this, everyone, you're going to buy it all tonight. There's a point in the trial where she makes another choice. And it's a very interesting choice because it helps her do what she wants to do.
You're not going to spill the tea?
No.
We want to know, but what was the choice? She cut off her hair. What happened? We want to know.
She wants us to buy the book.
I know she wants us to buy the book, but she can tell us we still going to buy the book.
It's a safe space.
Right, it's a safe space. So as you were researching and going through and learning so much about, because I'm sure you encountered a lot of information.
Yes.
Well, out of curiosity, what do you think the conversations were like in both homes? Like, for example, I'll just tell you real quickly. So I brought a white man home to my mom, and my mother was okay with it. She was, until he just did. It was a lot of things he just didn't understand. Like it was child. She was just like, now look now, he got to know the play, and he went to talking about who he voted for. This is a problem, sir. You know what I mean? She said, don't bring him back home. You know what I mean? I said, sir, this is over. You know what I mean? So I'm curious, what were the conversations like, you think?
The conversation at Rhinelander's home, because his daddy's name was Philip and owned half of the real estate in New York, she was a non-subject in that household. There's just no way. In fact, there's a documented moment before they were married where they were hanging out at a place called the Marie Antoinette Hotel in New York, and someone ended up breaking into their room and separating them, and it happened to be Daddy's lawyer. So
they was having the sex. It's a safe place. What they was doing?
You'll find out the story.
She was sewing a button on his shirt. What was happening? I want to know, girl. What? Okay.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, it's the 1920s, and there's a change in how women.
Yeah.
Could
The Roaring 20s.
The Roaring 20s for a reason. Getting out in the streets and the jazz and the music and the dance halls and champagne flowing. This is something that is in the book, and I will spill a little bit of tea.
Get ready.
Not about them,
No.
her sister.
Right.
Her older sister married a black man.
Really?
And Daddy said, get out.
Yeah. Yeah, because the conversations in their house was like, we're moving on up. That's what they was talking about. Okay, well.
Okay. So Daddy said no.
Really?
But then later on, when Rhinelander came through, his name was Leonard. I called him Lenny because everybody called him Kip. And I found that to be just so New York up the west side that I said, no, I'm going to, my fiction, his name is Lenny because it just was warmer. But he hung out with this family. He was accepted by Alice's people. And even after a while, even the oldest daughter and her family. One of the things that I did with the story, I wrote a dual timeline. So I have a 1940s track and a 1920s track. In the 1940s track, the daughter of her older sister and her husband is a news reporter at the New Amsterdam News, and that's how we get both sides of the story and her impact on the family.
I love it. I love it. So in the story, Marvel Cunningham
Yes.
is the shero, well, it's specified here, black shero, who became a very important force in Alice's life to provide a safe space to help her. Tell us about that. What was that about? Who was she? Where she find? What did she do?
That's fiction to a certain extent because there was actually a reporter by the name of Marvel. Oh, I can't remember her real last name at this point in time, but she was one of the first black women reporters she was the first black woman reporter at the New Amsterdam News, which was the weekly largest newspaper competing with the Chicago Defender. So I used Marvel and her track in the story because I felt that in order to have Alice be more sympathetic, she needed someone to help her navigate the brutality of the press, because her lawyers, interesting, of course, white men, both of them ended up being judges or advancing based on this trial and the notoriety that trial received.
You brought up the trial, and I would love to for you to tell us. We know today, but I'm just curious, why was it a bigger slur to be called Negro opposed to being called colored? Like, why was the family so much more offended by Negro? Do you have any documentation to support that?
It goes back to his British roots, because colored was actually part of the hierarchy in Jamaica, in Britain. That's a positive, versus Negro definitely means you're just black in America. And I'm Jamaican, and I don't know how many people here are Jamaican before I start talking about this. Jamaicans are sort of ego-driven, and within our culture, Jamaicans are sort of known for being a little uppity at Am I wrong? So it was consistent with his culture that he'd rather be colored than Negro, because Negro was specifically, in his mind, in his culture, referring to the blacks in America.
In the bottom of the barrel.
The bottom of the the hierarchy barrel.
Right. So you wrote many books, 5. But
6.
It's some powerhouses in those titles, though. Yeah. Why did you choose to really go in on this one? I know, why this one? You could have chose to write about anything in our history.
I will tell you totally that it was my editor at the time who suggested it, because I had never heard of this story. And a gal named Essie Soka at the time was at my publishing house, and I had my first meeting with her, and she said, I wish someone would write this story about Alice Jones Rhinelander. And I took a note and I said, this is a way to sell another book. So I went and started doing research while I was working on some other books. And it was a hard book with all the information available for me to make certain decisions on, and I had to really look into Jamaican culture, British culture, in order to say that this woman believed she had a right to say she wasn't Negro, but then she believed she had a right to say something else a little bit later.
What was that?
I ain't saying that. I still see books.
Right, they're gonna be gone. There you go. So, I want to know, like, first of all, is there any aspiring authors in here? Anyone who has not been published, want to be published, thinking about writing a book? Okay. All right. So, what else do you have going on? I know that you're traveling, you're speaking. You almost was Oprah's best friend. I don't know how you dropped almost Oprah's best friend, honey. I don't know how you missed that one.
Being in Chicago during a certain time period, you run into some people.
You do.
I was also, I'm going to tell this story real fast.
No, you got time.
I was also worked for McDonald's corporate out in Oak Brook, and we had a program called the Black History Makers of America. One of the years that I was responsible for the program, because I was working at a PR agency, one of our selections was a young man by the name of Barack Obama.
Oh! And you didn't marry him.
He was younger than I was.
Girl, ain't never run marrying young. Look what he became. Look what he became.
No, I missed out on Oprah.
And Barack, we need to fix your fixer, your pointer.
One more. I'm gonna tell one more.
Okay, y'all.
I went out on a date with Denzel.
Girl!
He was in college.
And you ain't had that
He was already in love with his wife.
man, baby? It was a girlfriend or, anyway,
Yeah, anyway.
it was just a girlfriend.
We digress. But Chicago will give you that sort of...
Yes, it will.
That lady, did y'all hear what she said? She said, I could have been Oprah's best friend.
Open, but
And go ahead.
My son was like 2 or 3 at the time or something. And at the time, Barack and I both smoked cigarettes. But, so we take breaks. And I had to do something, and he watched my son for a half hour.
Baby, I would have been lighting his cigarette. You want? Let me get a little cancer. Come here, baby. I would have showed up with baby in tow.
Please stop.
Listen.
No, he was just a fine young man, just really.
I'm sure. We know he's fine. You missed out on Barack Obama and Denzel and Oprah. We need something wrong. Like you wasn't focused. Okay.
Run into people left and right.
So there's a little note here, it's a sidebar that I actually thought this was an interesting question too. So a reader asked about a family photo discovered on Ancestry.com. You replied that you found a photo of my great-great-grandfather on my father's side of the family. At least that was another member of my family claimed, as I believed it too. He looks so much like my dad. His name is Rufus, born in Bermuda, 1873. Yeah. Will you continue to dig further into Rufus? Is he calling you to write him? I don't know what write him or write about him.
My family history, which is extensively documented on places like Ancestry.com, not totally by me, but just other people out there. So I dig into the Jamaican side, I dig into the Bermudan side, and I freely grab some of their history when I'm writing a novel. The novel that's going to be released in February, called Where the False Gods Dwell, it has a whole character who is very much involved in the labor movement of the 1930s in Jamaica against the sugar plantation owners and the banana plantation owners and the cruelty to the workers during that time. So that's one of my character tracks in that story, and probably threw in a couple of my relatives.
Nice. So we asked you a lot of questions, but what we didn't ask you, what I did not ask you was, tell us something that we cannot read and we don't know. Give us a little secret, honey. Spill some tea. From you. About you, the author. So the book we're gonna get, there was 2 opportunities for you to tell us something about the book that you didn't want. You told us you missed an opportunity to be Oprah's best friend, Barack's side chick, and Denzel.
I'm recording this.
Oh, sorry. Don't. this is a safe place. But you did right. You didn't choose violence with Michelle.
I did not.
So tell us something of, as you, an author, you know, a Jamaican American, is that how you identify?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about you that we do not know, and what inspires you?
I'll tell you what inspires me is being able to grab history, Black history, be it in this country or anywhere in the world, and getting those stories out there because it's critically important. There are many Black authors that I have the pleasure of calling my friends. And one of them right there, Miss Vanessa Riley.
Hi, Miss Riley.
She got some books over there too. I don't want to see them when I get up.
We're gonna put my
But
books down, yup.
It's exactly what you've been hearing tonight, the importance. Reading is resistance. Getting out there and letting the world know, because there are publishers and editors to this day who will sit in a room and say Black people don't read. And that impacts our ability as authors to be successful, because Black people do read. And everyone should, I read across the board. So how come when we're marketed, we're only marketed under categories that say for Black, Black, Black? We know that Black people are going to find our books. Everybody should be reading what we write. So I don't know, I started to get preachy there.
No, it's okay. We appreciate that. I'm curious. Do you, because what I heard you just say, you don't like to necessarily be categorized as a Black author, or are you saying that you don't? So when you write, do you say I'm a Black author or a Black story?
But there are rings of marketing, and so when you get into a store and you find the Black books in the back corner,
True.
As opposed to being on the table out front, that's impacting your ability to be a successful long-term
True.
Black author.
True.
I want those stores to stop pulling Black authors into categories and corners where they are not having the same exposure for possible sales.
Right.
And that means get us on the tables out front.
So the way that you write is so broad, honestly. Like I was like, it's over here you wrote that. So who exactly is your ideal reader?
My ideal reader are people who enjoy historical fiction, people who enjoy a good story, because I'm also a storyteller primarily, first and foremost. Well, my mic is clowning. Okay. That's important to me, that story, I write in one genre, and that's historical fiction. But within the genre of historical fiction, I could be writing a mystery, I could be writing a psychological thriller, where the false gods dwell, has a little flavor of that. Or I'm writing, my first book, Wild Women in the Blues, was all about a showgirl in Chicago who happens upon a murder on what was supposed to be the best day of her life. So I want to tell stories as much as possible.
I'm laughing because you said historical fiction. And the reason that's funny to me, because it's like 50% is true, 50% is lies. And I feel it's like bubble tea to me. I don't know if I'm supposed to drink or chew. You know, like, but I do. I'm confused. My mind can't take it. But I love it because it's always keeping you on the edge. And this here is an opportunity to speak to the author. So for the people who have the book, you know, if you have questions, please get ready, because it's rare that you can. Now, what part of this was true? You know what I mean? So yeah. I'm gonna yield to the floor so that we can get some questions answered. Okay, thank you. And so if you have questions, just raise your hand.
Hello. Someone question? Oh, there we go.
Hi. So I love the book. This is my first historical fiction novel. So that was interesting, and I went back and forth. But so history right now, I feel like it's repeating itself, maybe. And so what really got to me in this book was her passing. And I thought about DEI. And like, is this going to be what happens to people? Like, as we move forward, people just going to reject their Blackness and be like, okay, I'm not Black because I want to be not
I don't think so.
anymore?
I doubt that. Just my opinion. I think that the book I'm working on now focuses on the early days of the Black is Beautiful movement and the importance of those moments in history that helped all blacks, I hope and feel that way strongly, to have such a heightened level of pride. And I don't see that pride as fading just because there happens to be some madness in the world that is trying to say you're less than. Just no. I repeat that, or whatever the word is. I'm like, oh, hell no. Okay. Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
This evening. I don't have the book, but it sounds really interesting. I can't wait to person to read it. Have you sold the movie rights? Yeah.
Currently, I have a person in New York with Woke Star who is shopping the book. One of the things that occurred with the fires in LA was a slowdown. And not just for my book, but for
everybody,
many people.
The industry period.
The industry just came to a halt, and they're just slowly revving back up. So we'll see. I mean, this whole movie process is very complex and can take a lot of time.
Long process, yeah. Who has another question?
Yeah,
Yes,
I
sir.
have a quick question about your journey from a fledgling writer to getting your first publishing deal. Could you just tell us about that process for you?
Absolutely. I was involved in an organization called Romance Writers of America, which gave me, I was on the national board for a while, gave me access to editors and agents, but from a business perspective. But due to my background as a marketing and PR person, I'm good at networking. And so I networked and got myself an agent, and that helped me get to the point where I could sell books. But I also initially sold, because I'm traditionally published, I sold to people that I met and formed relationships with over the years. My first 2 sales were people I knew already in New York publishing.
Nice.
Networking should never be diminished. You get out there and you're really selling. You're not really selling, you're being a person who is comfortable interacting with people and sharing who you are and what you want.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Sure.
And at what point did you, once you made the deal, what point could you make a living as a writer doing nothing else?
We're working on that. It goes and comes in terms of, I switched agents a year ago. I have a new agent that I'm getting a new book to go on submission. It's not a guarantee. I also teach. I'm at Drexel University, the low res program. I also freelance write and do book reviews. I coach as a writing coach. And so I would love to never go back to a JOB that is in an office setting. I never did that anyway, so that's unfair. But I like, you just put it together. You have to be a little brave and a little restless, but you go for it.
And a little bit of crazy, because I say this all the time. When you decide you're going to step into the industry, for a long time it's just a hobby to other people, and it's just a passion. Like, she didn't give you all of my titles, but I always start at the beginning. I'm an actress, an author, a comedian, a coach, a real estate agent. Look, I skipped all over, but former national syndicated talk show host. I'll grease somebody's scalp. I'll do whatever I can do. But I'm not going back to work, you know what I mean? And so, all the things. So people see, like, oh, she wrote this and Buffy at the end of the day, there's times where you have to, tighten your belt. Like right now, when Hollywood went on strike, it was a mess. But, as I've been a licensed realtor since 2004, so while everybody else was starving, I was still eating, When the world shut down, I was like, oh, y'all hungry? But I got my real estate license, stay in the house, I'm still eating, So in this business, when you pick it, if you decide that you're going to be any part of the industry, you have to know there are going to be days where, you're just going to, somebody got to have a job.
Yeah.
2 of y'all can't be chasing no dreams. I told the fella the other day, you won't have to have a W-2, sir. Because I'm a 1099. What are you doing? Anyway, so who else got a question, y'all? We have the author, so y'all might as well get into this today. Oh, go ahead, sis.
I got a question about Emily and Robert. Why did they break up? Was it just the stress of the trial?
Actually,
I know the reason, but it's
fiction, historical fiction, one of the things that challenges many black authors is that people who you are writing about disappear from history. You can't find information about them. So Emily, I made a choice for dramatic content to have there be a challenge in that marriage that I think fit with the arc that I created for their daughter in the 1940s. But in the 1940s, you've read the book, everything Adelaide Rhinelander did is documented. And
Okay,
that woman was vicious.
So bring us up to speed. Who were the 2 people that she asked? For those who did not read the book, who were those?
Emily is the oldest daughter who married the black man, and her daughter, who is, what was her name? Jesus Christ. Okay, yeah, that girl. I mean, she has a whole track. But that was the fictionalized method that I wanted to use to make sure that the 1940s story, which was very interesting, the sister of the Rhinelander, his sister, when the father, something happened to the father and she was making money, alimony, if you will, as soon as the father passed, the sister said, I'm not paying you another dime. And so there was a whole series of court activities that kicked off in the 1940s.
So I do want you to reiterate here when I asked you about the conversations around the table.
Yeah.
What was the conversations around the table for the Rhinelanders? Like I'm sure it was different. Like
I think that their conversations from everything that I read was stop. Well, if they interacted publicly on this subject, when Alice got into the social register, they had a conniption because it was their son's fault that this Negro girl got into the social register. And this is just my opinion, but back in the day, all of those rich people in New York would marry their cousins. And part of that was because there were so many people that might have been passing. They wanted to keep the lines pure.
and that's why they look funny. That's why they look weird. You married your cousin, didn't you?
On and on and on. You can check so many times they're marrying a relative.
Okay, so just for the perspective of history,
Yes.
social register is owned now by Forbes.
Yes, they bought it many years ago.
Right. So the social register said what? We're presenting.
The social register was a list of the wealthiest and the purebreds. For example, the Rhinelanders went back to the Huguenots. They weren't Mayflower, they were the French Huguenots, their family tree. And then you have the Mayflower people. So their lineage was how they got into, and it really was only 400 names. In 1925, that were the 400. So, I mean, I'm getting mad. This is, just doing the research and discovering that this was the mindset of a whole group of people through history. And then those were some of the wealthiest people out there at that time. And so you talk about history repeating itself.
Was the Trumps in this book?
Oh, no. I don't think they have the lineage, frankly. No.
T. Okay. Are there any other questions?
Perfect, because I wanted you to stand up and introduce yourself. You guys don't know we have.
Well, I just wanted to ask a little question.
Stand up and introduce yourself.
Okay, hold on a second. Okay.
Hi.
I'm Vanessa Riley. I write historical fiction and the subgenres of historical romance and historical mystery. When you're writing a book like this and you run out of the facts, like the fact says this person lived here at this point in time and then they disappear. Walk us through, you started to allude to it, but just kind of talk about the fiction part and why it's so important and how it models what's going on in society and why that's why she's not writing nonfiction. Because some people are like, you did all this research, you might as well just write a nonfiction book. And you know, folks don't want to just read an encyclopedia. No. We want to read something that's engaging and pulling us along. So kind of tell us a little bit about your process.
Well, I'll use this example when it comes to Alice Rhinelander. Alice Rhinelander, at the end of the book, you're going to find something on her tombstone. And that is critical, not only to what she wanted from her life, but it informed me as a writer what was critically important to her, and that helped me shape the fiction parts of the story. And as I mentioned, love letters were published in the New York Times, New York Daily News, if it was, I think it's the Daily News. Their correspondence, there's a very impactful moment in the trial that, again, I won't give it away, but you can just look it up.
Right.
Because there's a photo of it. I'll give away this. Part of proving her race was for her to strip down in front of the judge's chamber.
She had to show her peach.
She showed what she had to show in order to prove that he should have known. Let's put it that way.
Baby, she had hips. Okay.
It's a very, I'm very proud of the book, but it was very tough reading the facts of the story and imagining being put in the situations that she was being put in, and how, again, she lived until she was 90 years old, but she disappears from history, I think in 1950. I couldn't find anything else about it.
So that leads me to ask you another question. Thank you for that question. Thank you everyone for those questions. But I'm curious, so what was the black community saying? Like, were they claiming her? Were they running from her? Or she thinks she... What was that conversation like in Harlem?
In the Amsterdam news, there was a lot going on in the culture during that time. So they were on her side. They were on her side in the newspaper because they could tell that the way the white press was covering the story was to really diminish her at whatever term. And so there was definitely support for her. It changed after she made some choices too. That's really why I created the Marvel Cunningham character, because I wanted a reporter to help her navigate through some crazy times. I mean, reporters staked out outside her family home and just So much stuff.
So I got a couple more questions for you, and this one here is as an author. I want to know, because I have a friend who said people don't read, like you mentioned, which we know that's not to be true. Have you noticed a decline in the interest of reading books? Tell Nancy you get interviewed.
You should have her. She's a good author too. Goodbye, Aunt Nancy.
So have you seen a decline in interest or the desire? Like
I've seen an increase.
Okay.
And increase is probably not the right word. It's just more show. You go to an event by, how many people here know Kennedy Ron as an author? Packed houses all the way back. I was at the Savannah Book Festival as an author. I had a packed room of people. And more people, you're going to have a gal in a couple of months by Victoria Christopher Murray here. And during AuthorTalks, she's amazing. You're going to have a packed house. You're going to buy a ticket now. Black readers are being more aggressive and public about the books they love.
Yeah.
You can also, I was mentioning to you about Black Book Talk on TikTok.
Yes.
There are some fabulous women over there and men who are reading everything from fantasies written by Black author, historical fiction, all of the genres, even nonfiction, and they are being very aggressive and very supportive, and not just of traditionally published books, also indie published books, and their authors are doing a fabulous job across the spectrum, so supportive.
And I'm so silly, I don't know. I was like, is there really a Black TikTok? I don't know. I don't know what the people did. So no, it's not, but it is a hashtag. So it's hashtag Black what?
Black Book Talk and Black TikTok.
When we say talk, it's T-O-K, because I actually went TLs. Listen, don't judge me, okay? So, so tell me, if you wanted to give everyone in here a takeaway, what would be your takeaway? So, do you want them to buy the book? Absolutely, they're going to buy your book. You want them to support Black authors? Absolutely. But what else would you want them to take away?
I'd like you to be loud about it. I'd like you to be loud on social media, and that place called Goodreads, where you can live or die as an author because of reviews. Tell people, word of mouth and social media, about the books you love. Get out there, because we need to consistently show certain fractions that people not only read, but they love to read. And they are reading consistently and enjoying books. So get out there and speak your truth about what you love to read.
Absolutely. Did you have something you wanted to add?
Just want to say, you guys here are doing the work, because showing up to an author's event, that tells the publishers that people are excited about these types of books, because it matters. So
publishers will tell us that they don't support events because events don't sell books, and so they won't finance a tour.
How long did it take you to write this book? You sound like you did a lot of research and all that. So how long did it take?
The question was, how long did it?
Took 6 or 7 years to write, because I didn't have a contract.
Wow.
Now that I have contracts, I figured out that it takes me 7 months.
Yeah, there's money on the table, honey. We gonna pay. You got a contract, 2 days. Hold on. What you need? An hour. 5 minutes. Matter of fact, I got a book in my bag.
And let me share that I consider myself, because of my friend over here, Vanessa, who writes 10 books in a minute, a slow writer at 7 months. But she doesn't sleep. She doesn't do nothing but write books. And she has a family.
That part, right. So I'm getting the wrap up. So I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you for everyone for being here. You could have been so many other places. It is Friday in Atlanta, so we are grateful. You don't live here, right?
No, I don't. I live in Savannah, Georgia.
So you live in Savannah, Georgia. So she came all the way up here from Savannah, Georgia. Please, like all the authors, I hate bringing books. and then have to take them back. I hate it. So make sure you support her. I also have my books. Are there any other authors in the room that have books on the table?
Yes.
Okay, so please, it's enough for y'all in here to sow a seed. That's what we have to do now. Okay, so let me just leave y'all on this last note. We are in the middle of a hostile takeover. It is important that you know, if you know anybody that lives in the states of Florida, we have elections coming up. We need to make sure we get involved. It's not just about, and brothers, I'm talking specifically to you. I need you guys to talk to the young men about how important it is to vote. They don't seem to understand the reason. So to understand the movement and the how powerful your vote is. They erased this woman out of history. So that means they're actually trying to do the same for us. So I want you guys to take somebody, drag somebody, call somebody, text somebody to go vote. Call them, let them know it's important. Also, make sure you support the authors in the room. Make sure that, when is the next date?
April the 18th.
April the 18th. I'll just be getting back. I'm speaking at the University of Oxford for world literacy. Yes, so I'll just be getting back. Right. Thank you. So, and again, as a 1099 employee or worker, we work really hard to bring something to the marketplace. So I would encourage you to buy one or two to gift. Okay. Again, we're gonna wrap this up. I love you. You guys have been amazing. Make sure you get your tickets now. Who's the author?
April 18th is Kimberly Jones. She was here earlier tonight.
Yep.
And it's going to be an incredible discussion.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we're going to eat, we're going to wine, dine, buy books, sign, and all the things. Thank you guys. Good night. It was great.
Yes, absolutely. Before you go.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, ladies.